In this segment, I want to show some Nintendo DS Homebrew. Don't give me any shit about what's better, a PSP or Nintendo DS. This is not a comparison. I'm just here to show you what's available for the Nintendo DS. Now, in front of me I've got a standard Nintendo DS Lite, and I've got my M3 Lite adapter. The M3 Lite adapter is actually a custom-tailored card to fit explicitly in the Nintendo DS perfectly. In the DS Lite perfectly. Now, there are swap-out cartridges, so you can put it in a standard DS or a Game Boy Advance. This is called the Slot 2 card, the Game Boy Advance card. The top up here is the Slot 1. Now, if you want to boot code off your Game Boy Advance slot, you need this card called a pass-me, or a passkey, depending on which company you're getting it from. This is a bootloader card that allows you to load code off your Nintendo DS Game Boy Advance slot. You put the card in, it has its own proprietary bootloader, and then it drops you into whatever code you got on your cartridge. I'm not going to get into discrepancies of how to use your own card. Read the manual. Now, these Slot 2 cards nowadays are using trans-flash cards. Trans-flash SD, or micro SD. They are very, very small. One day wouldn't be surprised if I actually saw a bunny turd that said 1 gig micro SD across it. These things are very small. Earlier cards before this used standard SD cards, and the cards before that used compact flash. Now, of course, things have evolved, and they have actually come up with Slot 1 cards, where there's a card that is the exact size of a Nintendo DS card, and you can put a trans-flash card in. This, I believe, is called the M3 Perfect. There's also the R4 card, where there's a small little jack on here where you plug your card into your computer, and you can transfer code directly to 4 gigabits of internal space. I personally like the idea of upgradability with the SD cards, so I went with the M3. I endorse their products. They have never given me a problem, and they are very top quality. You have to be careful when doing research for whatever kind of card solution that you want. Make sure you're getting the features that you want. Now, there are some little bitchy discrepancies I don't like about the M3. They go into saying how they have all of these features like a PDA, which really isn't exactly a PDA. You have to put the files onto your card via their PDA application, which is poorly coded in Visual Basic by Asian people that can hardly speak English, so the manual is very, very hard to understand, if not completely useless. They say that out of the box, the M3 movie player can play movies and music. What they don't tell you is you have to convert all of your movies and music down to a format that they can use on their Crystal engine, which I actually showed you in the Game Boy Advance segment. So, make sure you're not going to get bit in the ass when it comes to getting a card. Just get what you need. Don't break the bank and get more features than you need. Now, I'm trying to pack a lot of information into this segment, so I'm going to try to make this quick. There's something called DLDI, or Dynamically Linked Driver Interface. Because these things use either a FAT16 or a FAT32 or possibly even a FAT12 card, they've actually, a couple of really clever coders created a driver subsystem that people can code into their homebrew, where you can actually patch the ROM file so you can natively read FAT12, FAT16, or FAT32 depending on what card type you have. Now, there's a lot of different card types out there. There's a lot of memory card types out there. There's a lot of SRAM types, a lot of file systems. So let's go to the computer side, and I'll show you a little bit about how to patch the DLDI system. Okay, so here we are at the DLDI, or the Dynamically Linked Device Interface for the Nintendo DS. This is the main website. What you're going to have to do is go ahead and download some files. The first thing you have to download is the Windows 32 command line, and I'd get the graphical user interface as well. There's also command line for Linux, Windows, and Mac OS X. So, once you get that, if you've noticed, there's a very large list of DLDI files for different types of cards. There's default, which is no device, Ace card, DS Link, DSX, blah blah blah. Now, I have an M3. I have an M3 SD card. So I've already gone ahead and I've downloaded this DLDI file. Now, I'm going to go into the DLDI folder. I've extracted everything to a common folder. I'm going to run the DLDI tool. Now, normally it'll ask you where your DLDI files are. I've already pointed it to the appropriate directory. And the only one I've downloaded is the one for the M3 adapter for the SD card, because that's the only card I have. And then over here you can actually add your binaries, your Game Boy, your Nintendo DS or Game Boy Advance homebrew code, and then hit your patch button, and it'll automatically patch for the DLDI support that you have. Now, that is that when it comes to DLDI. Now, DLDI can be a little finicky, a little bitchy, and very complicated to use. So if you get a chunk of homebrew code, which usually comes in two formats, in either a .gba for Game Boy Advance cards to load off of your slot 2, or an NDS, which you load off of your Nintendo DS card. I can load Nintendo DS code off of my cartridge. The .gba is really for the older cards that use the original SD card or have an older firmware on the card. So, if you have a slot 2 card and then the NDS file isn't loading, try the GBA. And if you get any kind of errors when your program's loading up, then it's most likely because you didn't patch the appropriate FAT. Now, I've noticed that some programs that really don't even require the DLDI support will only run if I actually put the DLDI support. This is just another discrepancy with the M3 adapter. So if something doesn't work, keep on trying. Hit the forums, hit show notes, go online, hit Google, and you can probably get all the help that you need there. Now, let's get into a little bit of the homebrew, shall we? Before we begin, I have to apologize for any kind of shaky camera or whatnot. I gotta give my camera a reach around to do this, so just bear with me. Here we have a standard Nintendo DS booting up. This is the pass card booting up, and here's my card saying not licensed or sponsored by Nintendo. Now we're going to go into the game menu. And the first thing I want to showcase is Moonshell, once I get down to it. Moonshell is an alternate graphical environment. Oh, shut up. Shut up. Alright. Moonshell is a graphical environment for the Nintendo DS. It's also a loader and a menu system. It's also got a built-in movie player, MP3 player, ebook reader, photo viewer, and text file reader, clock, alarm clock, whole bunch of great stuff. Highly would recommend Moonshell. As you can see, I got a bunch of music just sitting on my card. Go through the songs. It's also got a fully graphical interface. This shows help, it shows ID3 tags, it'll show a whole bunch of stuff. And it's actually a really good looking shell nonetheless. Let's go over to the PC side and I'll actually show you how to put together Moonshell because it's got so many features I can't even describe them all. Okay, so I've showed you a couple of the features of Moonshell. It does everything that you need. I honestly wish that was the default shell of for my card. Some cards don't come with a shell. Moonshell is the shell to get. So back on the computer side here, we're going to go and I've already downloaded Moonshell from the website. Just Google search for Moonshell. And I'm going to show you how to go out and about and actually create a Moonshell package. Okay, you have to extract everything to a common folder. Here it is. And here's the setup. Now we want English language. Okay. And it's going to ask where do we want to save everything to. Now unfortunately I have to save it to my C drive because I don't have my SD card in, but okay. Now, configuration files. Alright, we're just going to do the simple configuration files. We want the plugins, the default skins. Do you want to make resume music functionable? Do you want bookmarks? Okay, let's add those in. Okay, there's a whole bunch of readmes that you can probably hardly read because it's all in Japanese. What clock plugin do you want? So you can actually choose a different skin and hit preview, and it will show you a preview of what kind of clock plugin you want. I kind of like the Blue Moons. They're kind of elegant. You can create your own. Also wants to know what kind of character set you're using for your game, for your Nintendo DS. Now, here's built-in DLDI support. Now, I don't have most of these cards. I have the M3 SD card, so that's the only one I'm going to leave in right now. Okay, and then all you got to do is hit setup, and there you go. Now once you get back to your, it should have spit out some of the C drive, so let's go to my computer, go to my C drive. There's my Moonshell M3 SD card for the M3 adapter. There's Moonshell. So there you go. Moonshell is really easy to build. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but once you get it built, come on, you can't do without Moonshell. That is the end all, the application of applications. If you're gonna put anything on your Nintendo DS, it's got to be Moonshell. The next thing on the list I want to showcase is the Nintendo DS Wi-Fi scanner. It's actually part of a demo Wi-Fi library test. And there it is. We can choose war driving, do a remote keyboard, remote packet capture, connect to access points, or show what kind of information the DS has, MAC address. What I really like is the packet capture. I mean, it's not the kind of packet capture you would expect from packet injection or anything like that. It'll actually show the actual data going across the entire Wi-Fi spectrum itself. It's very handy, very, very useful. You can also exit and go into the war driving section, which it'll actually report all of the signal strengths and access points within the area. Now, the Nintendo DS Lite has a really shit antenna, but the standard Nintendo DS, the original, has one hell of an antenna. It's a very impressive device, and what's really cool about this is right now I can pull out my card, both my pass card and my M3 card, and then and this will run from RAM. It's small enough to run from RAM, so I can load this up on another card, on another DS. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a laptop or a PDA, you can still use your Nintendo DS to be a Wi-Fi scanner. So shit, if you're not technically inclined and you want to have a fun day of Techno Terror with the guys or some of the gals, there you go. Wi-Fi scanner in your pocket. The next chunk of homebrew I want to actually show that's actually quite useful is Air Replay for Nintendo DS. That is right, the packet injection tool used for cracking web has been made available for the Nintendo DS. Now it's still in beta and it's still buggy. However, it does seem to slightly work from time to time. It really is very assy about things. It does need a lot of work, and they're still working on it, but definitely something very interesting that a lot of laptops nowadays can't do packet injection, and a lot of computers can't do packet injection, so if you can actually use Air Replay and ARP Replay attacks to do deauthentication attacks for cracking web, not that we condone cracking, but still nonetheless, very useful application. The only time I would actually condone any kind of game piracy is in this case, where some of the applications I'm going to show you require Wi-Fi, and the only way to actually set up Wi-Fi is to have a Wi-Fi enabled game, or what we call a Nintendo WFC game, or a Wi-Fi connected game. I feel it's kind of craptastic to have to go out there and pay $40–50 for a Wi-Fi connected game that you're never going to play just to configure your settings. So if that's the case, go out and get yourself a bootleg copy of a game. I'll run you through the settings real quick. Go to your Nintendo Wi-Fi setup, and you go up to any one. Let's go to this one. It's not set up, and you can either search for an AOSS compatible, which is like the Nintendo Wi-Fi stick. You can go through a manual setup if you know everything about the access point, or you can do the search for access point. Okay, and this showed me a couple of access points, and we can go on to this, and it'll ask for the web key. You put in your web key. Now, some of the homebrew is kind of assy, and you have to enter your IP address, your DNS, your